Have you ever wondered why the more accessible you make yourself, the less seriously people appear to take you? When you respond instantly, agree quickly, and always say yes, something subtle begins to shift. Your presence becomes expected rather than appreciated. Your kindness becomes predictable, and predictability in many social dynamics reduces perceived value. In this episode, we are exploring the transformative power of selective unavailability. Not emotional coldness, not manipulation, but conscious restraint. You will discover how constant accessibility can quietly erode your autonomy, how immediate reactions make you easier to influence, and how strategic pauses restore balance. By the end, you will not only strengthen your English vocabulary and listening skills, you will also gain a deeper understanding of boundaries, self-respect, and personal power. Because this is not about ignoring people. It is about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your psychological space in a world that constantly demands your attention. And before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments what you're doing as you listen and where you're listening from. It's always incredible to see the global reach of my podcast. With love, let's dive in. Why does constant availability reduce your perceived value? Constant availability creates an illusion of unlimited supply. When something is always present, it loses its sense of rarity. Human psychology responds strongly to scarcity. We instinctively place higher value on what feels limited or difficult to access. When you answer every message within seconds, accept every request, and adjust your schedule for everyone else, you communicate that your time has no boundaries. Others may not consciously think this, but they begin to treat your availability as guaranteed. Over time, appreciation fades and entitlement grows. This does not mean people are cruel by nature. It simply reflects predictable human behavior. When access to you feels effortless, your presence becomes ordinary. Selective unavailability interrupts that pattern. It reintroduces a sense of structure around your time. It signals that your attention is intentional, not automatic, and intention changes perception. When access is thoughtful rather than constant, respect quietly begins to return. How can predictable reactions make you easier to control? Predictability provides comfort, but it also creates vulnerability. If people know exactly how you will react, they can anticipate your response before you even speak. If they know you always forgive quickly, always accept last-minute changes, or always prioritize their needs, they may unconsciously rely on that pattern. Over time, this dynamic reduces your influence. You become the reliable responder rather than the equal participant. Selective unavailability introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty restores balance. When you pause before replying, when you take time to consider instead of reacting immediately, you disrupt expectations. This disruption is not hostile. It is stabilizing. It forces others to engage with you as an independent decision-maker rather than a predictable emotional response. Strategic silence is powerful because it creates space. In that space, you regain control over your choices. You respond thoughtfully rather than reflexively, and thoughtful responses cannot be easily manipulated. What is strategic silence, and why does it change social dynamics? Strategic silence is the deliberate choice not to react immediately. It is the pause between stimulus and response. In modern communication culture, speed is often confused with care. People expect instant replies, instant reassurance, instant agreement. But speed does not equal sincerity. Strategic silence communicates composure. When you do not rush to fill every gap in conversation, you project confidence. When you do not respond immediately to pressure, you signal emotional regulation. This shifts social dynamics because people begin to sense that access to you requires patience. Silence also gives you time to evaluate intentions. Are you responding out of guilt, out of fear of disappointing someone, or from genuine willingness? That brief pause protects your autonomy. It allows you to choose rather than react, and choice is the foundation of self-respect. Strategic silence is not about power games. It is about creating psychological distance so that your responses reflect clarity instead of impulse. Why is selective unavailability a form of self-respect? Self-respect is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is the quiet decision to honor your own limits. Selective unavailability expresses that decision. When you do not immediately sacrifice your time, you demonstrate that your schedule matters. When you decline without excessive explanation, you show that your boundaries do not require justification. Many people fear that setting limits will damage relationships. In reality, healthy relationships adapt to clear boundaries. It is one-sided relationships that struggle. By becoming selectively unavailable, you reveal which connections are based on mutual respect and which depend on your constant compliance. This clarity may feel uncomfortable at first. Some individuals may resist the change, but discomfort is often a sign of growth. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is sustainable. When you respect your own limits, you teach others how to treat you, and that lesson reshapes your social environment over time. How does pausing before responding protect your mental energy? Mental energy is limited. Every decision, every emotional reaction consumes cognitive resources. When you respond instantly to every request, you allow external demands to dictate your focus. This constant reactivity creates exhaustion. Pausing before responding interrupts that cycle. It gives your mind time to assess priority and relevance. Not every message deserves immediate attention. Not every invitation requires instant confirmation. By delaying your response, even briefly, you reduce impulsive commitments. This preserves your cognitive clarity. It also reduces emotional leakage, the subtle drain that occurs when you react without reflection. A pause allows your nervous system to settle. You move from urgency to intention. Over time, this practice strengthens emotional regulation. You feel less overwhelmed because you are no longer operating in constant response mode. Instead, you are choosing where to invest your attention. And attention, when directed consciously, becomes a powerful tool for maintaining internal stability. Why do some people react negatively when you set boundaries? Resistance often reveals dependency. When someone benefits from your constant availability, a sudden shift may feel threatening to them. They may interpret your pause as rejection, even when it is simply balance. This reaction does not automatically mean they are malicious. It may reflect habit. People become accustomed to predictable patterns. When those patterns change, uncertainty appears. However, discomfort does not equal wrongdoing. If your boundaries are respectful and clear, their resistance is information. It tells you how much the relationship relied on your overextension. True mutual respect survives reasonable limits. In fact, it often strengthens because expectations become transparent. If someone becomes distant or hostile when you protect your time, that response exposes imbalance. Boundaries function as filters. They separate relationships based on reciprocity from those based on convenience. Understanding this reduces guilt. You are not responsible for managing everyone's expectations. You are responsible for protecting your well-being. How does selective unavailability rebuild personal autonomy? Autonomy is the capacity to choose your actions without external pressure controlling them. When you are constantly reachable, your choices shrink. Notifications interrupt your focus. Requests influence your schedule. Expectations guide your behavior. Selective unavailability restores decision-making authority. When you are not immediately accessible, you regain control over timing. You decide when to engage. You determine how much energy to invest. This shift may seem small, but psychologically, it is profound. Autonomy strengthens self-trust. Each time you delay a response to evaluate your priorities, you reinforce the belief that your needs matter. Over time, this builds confidence. You feel less reactive and more intentional. Autonomy also reduces resentment. When you say yes because you choose to, rather than because you feel obligated, your participation becomes authentic. And authenticity enhances respect, both from others and from yourself. Can silence increase respect without damaging connection? Silence, when intentional and calm, can deepen respect. It creates space for reflection. It encourages others to take responsibility for their own emotions instead of relying on you for immediate reassurance. Silence also prevents escalation. In moments of tension, immediate responses are often emotional rather than rational. By stepping back, you prevent unnecessary conflict. Respect grows when communication is thoughtful rather than impulsive. Silence does not mean avoidance. It means timing. When you respond after reflection, your words carry weight. They are measured, composed, and clear. This clarity strengthens connection because it reduces misunderstanding. People may initially be surprised by your pause, but over time, they adjust. They learn that you operate from intention rather than urgency, and intention signals maturity. Mature communication fosters stable relationships. Silence, used wisely, becomes a tool for strengthening rather than weakening connection. Why is internal peace more important than constant helpfulness? Helping others can be meaningful, but constant helpfulness without boundaries leads to depletion. Internal peace is the foundation of sustainable generosity. If your calm depends on meeting everyone's expectations, your stability becomes fragile. Selective unavailability prioritizes equilibrium. It acknowledges that your mental clarity is not negotiable. You cannot offer meaningful support if you are exhausted or resentful. Choosing not to respond immediately does not reduce your kindness. It protects its quality. Internal peace creates discernment. You begin to distinguish between genuine need and habitual dependence. This awareness refines your contributions. You help intentionally rather than automatically. Over time, this selective engagement enhances respect. Others recognize that when you show up, you do so fully, not out of obligation. Protecting your peace ensures that your presence remains valuable, and value, when preserved, strengthens both self-respect and relational balance. How does selective unavailability filter one-sided relationships? One-sided relationships often survive because of imbalance. When one person consistently invests more time, energy, or emotional labor, the other adapts to that dynamic. Selective unavailability challenges this structure. When you reduce overextension, you observe how the other person responds. Do they initiate effort? Do they respect your timing? Or do they withdraw when convenience disappears? This observation provides clarity without confrontation. Instead of arguing about fairness, you allow behavior to reveal priorities. Healthy relationships adjust naturally. They do not depend on constant access. If someone values you beyond utility, they remain present even when you are not instantly reachable. Filtering is not about eliminating people aggressively. It is about recognizing patterns. By becoming selectively unavailable, you create space for reciprocity to emerge. Those who remain demonstrate alignment. Those who fade expose imbalance. Either outcome provides valuable information. Why does delayed response increase perceived confidence? Confidence is often associated with calm pacing. Individuals who respond immediately to every message may appear eager or anxious. Those who take time to consider their replies project steadiness. Delayed response signals that you are not governed by urgency. It communicates that your time is structured. This perception influences social dynamics. People interpret measured communication as composure. Composure suggests self-assurance. Even if you are internally uncertain, the act of pausing reinforces external confidence. Over time, external behavior shapes internal belief. By practicing delayed response, you train yourself to tolerate silence. You become comfortable with temporary gaps. This comfort reduces fear of losing approval. And when fear diminishes, clarity increases. Confidence grows not from controlling others, but from controlling your own reactions. Strategic delay cultivates that control. It transforms anxiety into deliberation, and deliberation into authority. Is selective unavailability manipulation or maturity? The intention determines the meaning. Manipulation seeks to control outcomes for personal gain. Maturity seeks to protect balance and self-respect. Selective unavailability becomes manipulation only if it is used to create insecurity deliberately. But when practiced as self-care, it is an expression of emotional intelligence. It recognizes that constant responsiveness may distort relational equilibrium. Maturity involves understanding your limits and honoring them consistently. It requires resisting the impulse to prove your value through availability. Instead, you allow your value to exist independently of constant interaction. This shift demands discipline. It may feel uncomfortable initially because you are breaking habitual patterns. However, maturity is rarely convenient. It prioritizes long-term stability over short-term approval. When your motivation is clarity rather than control, selective unavailability becomes a sign of psychological growth. It reflects awareness, restraint, and intentional engagement. How can you practice selective unavailability without becoming distant? Balance is essential. Selective unavailability does not require emotional withdrawal. It requires conscious timing. You can communicate clearly that you respond during certain hours. You can acknowledge messages without committing immediately. Transparency prevents misunderstanding. You remain warm but structured. You remain supportive but not reactive. Practicing this consistently creates rhythm in your interactions. Others adapt to your pace. Over time, expectations align with your boundaries. It is also important to examine your motives. Are you pausing to regain clarity or to provoke reaction? Honest reflection keeps the practice healthy. When your goal is internal stability, your tone remains respectful. Gradually, selective unavailability becomes natural rather than strategic. It transforms from effort into habit, and habits shape identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who values time, protects energy, and communicates with intention. What changes when you choose peace over pressure? When you prioritize peace over constant responsiveness, subtle transformations occur. Anxiety decreases because you are no longer racing to meet every demand. Resentment fades because your commitments are chosen, not forced. Relationships stabilize because expectations become realistic. Most importantly, your self-perception evolves. You recognize that your worth is not measured by speed or availability. It is grounded in presence and intention. Selective unavailability does not isolate you. It refines your connections. It ensures that your energy flows toward mutual respect rather than obligation. By choosing pauses, you choose clarity. By choosing clarity, you choose autonomy. And autonomy nurtures self-respect. In a world that encourages perpetual accessibility, restraint becomes powerful. Protecting your peace is not avoidance, it is wisdom. And when you operate from wisdom rather than pressure, your presence becomes meaningful again. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss the next lesson. Your support means so much. It keeps this space alive and growing. With love, thank you for being here, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you.